We begin today the Gemara on Daf Yutes Amud Beis, Amar Rav Asi, 8 lines up from the bottom of the Yamud. The Gemara here is talking about halachas relating to Meiser Sheni. Mentioned in the Mishnah about one that eats Meiser Sheni outside of Yerushalayim, or he eats it when he's tameh, that you get Malkus. Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rav Yochanan, Meiser Sheni me'emisai chayavin olav. Regarding Meiser Sheni, from what point would a person be chayav Malkus if he eats it outside of Yerushalayim? Mishara Panei HaChoyme, when it saw the inside of the walls of Yerushalayim. Only if the Meiser Sheni was brought inside, and then he takes it out and eats it outside, then he's chayav. But if you eat the Meiser Sheni outside of Yerushalayim before it was brought into Yerushalayim, it's aser, but there's no malchus for that. My time, the Amakra, because the pasuk says, "Lefnei Hashem v'lekecha techlenu," you should eat it in front of Hashem, which is referring to the city of Yerushalayim. Uksiv, and the pasuk before that says, "Leisuchal lechol b'sharecha." You can't eat it in any of your gates in any other place. So these two psukim that say together are connected. Wherever it's already applies because you already brought it in, and therefore it was lefnei Hashem lekecha to eat it. Then karina be'lesucha lechol b'sharecha. There, the law of not to eat it in any of your gates outside of Yerushalayim applies. But where the lefnei Hashem lekecha is not applicable because it wasn't brought inside yet, you don't apply the law of not to eat it outside of Yerushalayim. So the Gemara asks on this from a Braisa. Rabbi Yosi says, Kayin sha'olsa b'yadai te'ena shel tevel. The kayin that has a fig that is tevel, it's untied. There's no trumeh or maisris that was removed from it yet, and he wants to eat this. So what happened? Omar, he said, te'ena zu, this fig, trumasa ba'ukta. The trumeh portion is going to be by the stem. Maiserishayim b'tzfayna. Then the Maiserishan that's separated, that has to go. So the truma goes actually for the kain himself. So he designates that it should be by the stem. Then the Maiserishan that goes for the Levi is b'tzfayna. It should be in the tzafin, in the north section of this fig. Or Meiser Sheni, and if it's the year that you have to separate Meiser Sheni, that's l'draima, and the other side of the fig. The Rivan here points out, this is the Rivan, on this Amud begins the Pirish of the Rivan in the place of Rashi. So the Rivan points out that there's a similar Gemara that speaks about when a person has a barrel of wine and he didn't give Trumas and Maestris yet, that he can designate the Trumas and Maestris in this barrel. And there it doesn't say about one section, another section, it's all in the barrel, and then you drink, and then with the remainder, the person just separates the Truma and the Maestris, even though it's all mixed together. But here, Rabbi Yosi in this Braisa holds, you can't give the Trumas and Meiser if it's all mixed together. You have to designate a specific place where there's the Truma, and then there's the rest of what's left over from the Truma. So therefore, he says there has to be a specific place in this fig. Okay, so regarding the Meiser Sheni, V'hishnas Meiser Sheni, Rabbi Yosi adds, and this is the significant point here, he says that this is the year where you separate Meiser Sheni and V'hu b'Yerushalayim. This is all happening with the kain that has this fig while he's in the city of Yerushalayim. If it's not the year of Meiser Sheni, but it's the 3rd or 6th year from Shemitah, and it's Oy Meiser Ani, you have to separate the Meiser and give to a poor individual, V'hu b'Gvulin, and then he's not in Yerushalayim, he's anywhere else, not in the border of Eretz Yisrael. That's what the kain did. So seemingly he did everything. He separated the Trumah and then the Meiseris as well, and now he eats it, so he should be okay. Says Rabbi Yosi, Achla, if the Kain eats it, Loike Achas, he still gets Malkus once. The reason is because the Meiser Rishon for the Levi, you also have to separate the Trumas Meiser, a tenth of that Meiser Rishon that goes now to the Kain, and he didn't. Therefore, it's still Tevel that it's going to be Chayiv Malkus for this. Even though it all goes to the Kain is allowed to eat it, but it doesn't matter. There's the mitzvah of separating the Trumas Meiser, and without separating it, it's still Tevel. So he's chayiv one malchus. Zar shachla, a zar, a yid, not a kain that eats from this, like ishtayim. He gets malchus twice. Why malchus twice? Because he's eating tevel. It's the trumas meiser was not separated, and also he's eating truma. The truma that was separated belongs to the kain, and if you eat the truma, he's chayiv malchus. And now Rabbi Yosi explains, if he would have eaten from this fig when it was full tevel and nothing was separated from it, the truma was not separated yet, You would only get Malkus once for it being Tevel. But now that the Truma was separated and not the Trumas Meiser, it actually makes matters worse. Because now he's going to get Malkus for eating Truma and also for eating Tevel. Atkan is what Rabbi Yossi says in the Braisa. Now, as I mentioned, the point that the Gemara is going to focus on is regarding Ma'aser Sheni, and it says V'hu b'Yerushalayim, that the Kain is in Yerushalayim when this happens. What is it? What's Rabbi Yossi emphasizing by that? Taimed, he said Yerushalayim. What he's saying is that he's in Yerushalayim, so because he's in Yerushalayim, therefore he gets Malkus twice. But if he would be outside Yerushalayim, like Yishalosh, he would get Malkus a third time. Why a third time? Because he's eating Ma'aser Sheni outside Yerushalayim. So what do you see from here? The Afagav, the Loyroye, Pnei Chayma. Even if the Bach Ve'afagav, the Lav Roye Pnei Chayma, even without this Ma'aser Sheni being brought inside Yerushalayim and then taken out of Yerushalayim, like Rav Asi said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that only then are you chayav Malkus. From this Braisa, it seems to say that the only reason why regarding Ma'aser Sheni he's saying Dafke v'hu Yerushalayim because he wants to say that you get twice Malkus. But if he was outside Yerushalayim when this happens, he would get a third time Malkus. So this contradicts what Rav Asi said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that it's only when you were inside and it was brought out. Says the Gemara, you don't have to be medayik this way. The pshat over here is what happened was the Aili va'afki, or the Bach says the Aila va'afka. That there is a diik v'hu b'Yerushalayim. That only when he's in Yerushalayim he'll be chayav Malkus twice, and not if he's outside. But outside to be chayav a third time Malkus, that's if he was inside and then took it out and ate it there. Then he'll be chayav a third time Malkus. But if it was Ma'aser Sheni and never in Yerushalayim, he would not be chayav a third time Malkus. But the Gemara asks on this, if that's how you're understanding what Rabbi Yossi is saying here, so then Maila Memra. What is the Chiddush in this Braisa? What is it saying over here? It's saying that if a Kayin eats from this fig, so because he didn't separate the Trumas Meiser, it's still Tevel, or if a Yid eats from it, so he's eating Truma and he's eating Tevel, so you chayav twice Malkus. What is the Chiddush to say that you would be chayav Malkus for eating Truma and chayav for eating Tevel? We know that you chayav Malkus for these two things. The only Chiddush that could be over here is these two words, V'hu b'Yerushalayim. To say the diuk, that's the only chiddush l'chayra. That if you're in Yerushalayim, you're not going to be chayav a third time Malkus of the Ma'aser Sheni. If you're outside, you are. Even in a case where you didn't bring it in and go out. So, otherwise, what is the chiddush here? Says the Gemara, okay, the chiddush over here is as follows. The case here is Kagain the Ailinu b'Tivlayo. He brought it into Yerushalayim. But it was brought into Yerushalayim, this fig we're talking about, which was Tevel, before any of the Maesters was separated, before the Ma'aser Sheni was separated or designated, that's when it was brought into Yerushalayim, and then it was taken back out. Does that also qualify for the point that Rabbi Yochanan said, that only if it was brought in and taken out, would you be chayiv? When he brought, it was inside Yerushalayim, but not once he separated it. Now the Chiddush here is, v'kasava, Rabbi Yossi holds, matanis shaloi hormu, kimishu hormu damyan. That when you have the trumis and maesters that have to be separated from this fig, from any produce, even before you separate it, it's as if it's already separated. And therefore, when this is brought into Yerushalayim, although the Ma'aser Sheni was not designated yet, but because it was physically in Yerushalayim, and this is the fig that it's going to be separated, it's as if it was separated, and then if you take it out, he'll be chayiv for eating from this Ma'aser Sheni that was once inside Yerushalayim. That's the chiddush of this brisa. The Gemara asks on this, could it be that this is the pshat? V'sava Rabbi Yossi. Is it Rabbi Yossi's opinion that matanis shaloi hormu kemishu hormu dami, that all the gifts and the trumas and maasros that has to be separated, even before you separate it, it's considered as if it's separated? But vatanya or vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, it says, Rab Shimon ben Yehuda Aimeh, Mishum Rabbi Yossi. Rab Shimon ben Yehuda said in the name of Rabbi Yossi. Now what this Mishnah is speaking about is Takonis Chazal. Chacham were mesakin that once the produce is brought into Yerushalayim, you can't redeem it anymore. The chance you have to redeem the Ma'aser Sheni is only before it's brought into Yerushalayim. After it's brought inside, you have to eat it there. You can't redeem it anymore. So regarding this halacha, it was said in the name of Rabbi Yossi that Le'nechleku Beishamai B'Silol Al Peiris Shalei Nigmura Malachtan. There's no argument between Beishamai and B'Silol regarding produce where the malacha was not yet completed with this. Meaning, let's say you have grain, the Rivan brings over here regarding grain, the chitim, the Gemar Malach is Mishim Yimareach Hakri. When you make a pile of the kernels, you smooth out the pile. That's the Gemar Malacha when it's Chayiv Meiser. So if he brings in this grain into Yerushalayim before this Gemar Malacha, Va'avru Yerushalayim. So again, it was in Loy Nigrim Malachta, and it was brought into Yerushalayim. So everybody agrees, Sheyifte Ma'aseh Sheni Shelahem. You could still redeem this Ma'aseh Sheni and V'yochel B'chol Makom. You could eat it anywhere. So as I mentioned, even though there's a takana of Chazal that once it's brought into Yerushalayim, you can't redeem it anymore. But over here, because he brought it into Yerushalayim before there's a Gemar Malacha, before it's even Chayiv in the Ma'aseh Sheni, so then even if it was in Yerushalayim, you could take it back out and redeem it and eat it anywhere. Where is there a machlokes between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel? Al peiris shenigmar malachtam. Peiris that it's already complete. Regarding the chitim, it's already smoothed out in a pile. And now he brought it into Yerushalayim. In such a case, Bavi Yerushalayim, Beis Shammai Beis Shammai say Yachzer Ma'aseh Sheni Shalem v'Yochel B'Yerushalayim. This Ma'aseh Sheni that you're going to separate, you're going to have to keep it in Yerushalayim. If you're going to take it out, you have to bring it back to Yerushalayim. You must eat it in Yerushalayim. You cannot redeem it outside Yerushalayim anymore. Now, what's the basis of what Beis Shammai is saying? Because even though the Ma'aseh Sheni was not yet actually designated, but because it's already a Gemar Malacha and it's already Chayiv in the Ma'aseh Sheni, it's Matanis Shaloi Hormu, Taka wasn't separated yet, but it's as if it was separated. So it's as if you brought this Ma'aseh Sheni into Yerushalayim, and now you can't take it out and redeem anymore. However, Beis Hillel say, Yifte v'yochal b'chol makom. You have this produce that's already ready to take Ma'aseh Sheni, and you brought it into Yerushalayim, you can still take it out and redeem it outside. Why? Seemingly because Beis Hillel holds matanis shaloi hormo kemi shaloi hormo. It was not designated as Ma'aseh Sheni yet, so it's not Ma'aseh Sheni. So you can take it back out and redeem. This is what's quoted all in the name of Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yossi is saying that according to Beis Hillel, it's like Kimi Shalei Hormo. It's like the Ma'aseh Sheni has not been yet separated. Now, if you're going to say, like we explained the previous price of Rabbi Yossi, that Maton is Shalei Hormo, Kimi Hormo Damyon, that the Maasres, even before it's actually designated, separated. It's as if it's already separated regarding the halacha that we said before, to get malchus, that once you bring it in and you take it out, even if it wasn't separated yet, but you brought in the produce, you're going to be chayav malchus. So we should say the same thing here. Hakol tu'u mechitzis. It was already taken inside in the walls of Yerushalayim, and Chachamim were mesakin that you can't take it back out to redeem anymore. So why is Beis Hillel here saying the opposite? Says the Gemara, it's two different halachas. Amar Rabbe, so Rabbe answers, or Amar Rave, v'chitze lechol da'iraisa. The first halacha, the first braisa of Rabbi Yossi is talking about bringing it into the city, into the walls of Yerushalayim, regarding the halacha min ha-Torah, that it must be eaten in Yerushalayim and not outside. And if you eat it outside, you get malchus. So regarding that halacha, we say matana shalei hormo. Once it was brought into Yerushalayim, even if it wasn't separated yet as meiser, it's as if it's been separated, and therefore if you take it out, you'll get malchus. Mechitze likloit, however, the walls of Yerushalayim, regarding the halacha of the second Mishnah here, that Rabbi Yossi says in the name of Beis Hillel, that regarding this takon of Chazal, this is only the Rabbanan. The Chachamim were geyser that once you bring it in, that you can't take it out and redeem anymore. That doesn't apply here, because v'chi gazer Rabbanan, when did Rabbanan make this gzeira that you can't redeem once it was brought into Yerushalayim? When it's already actually Ma'aseh Sheni. B'tivlei lo gazer Rabbanan. If it's still tevel, even if be'emes it's kemisha hormudami, but nevertheless Chachamim's gzeira, they only made in a case when it's actual Ma'aseh Sheni. And therefore, in such a case, you can still take it out and separate the Ma'aseh Sheni. This is all one pshat in explaining the Braisa before. Again, the Gemara asked, Maila Memra, what's the chiddush over here? If the case is that it was brought into Yerushalayim and then it was taken out, seemingly there's no chiddush here. So here the Gemara explains this point, that the chiddush is Matana Shloi Hormo Kemi Shehormo Damyan. Another pshat the Gemara says, Ravina says, going back to the Braisa, what is the chiddush over here of this fig where he ate truma and he ate tevel? What's the chiddush if it's not for the fact that it was brought in and taken out? So there's no chiddush over here, b'chlal. Or sorry, if it's not a case where he brought it in and took it out, it's just stam that he ate it outside. So then there's no chiddush b'chlal. So the Gemara says, no, it's a different case. There is a chiddush here. Kogoin the nokatle bekanya. The case here is that he didn't completely bring it into the city of Yerushalayim. The person came into the city of Yerushalayim. Where's the Ma'aseh Sheni? he's holding it on a stick on his shoulders, and then on the end of that stick, there's a bag with the Ma'aser Sheni. So in such a case, the Gemara brought before on Daf Yutes it was, or on Daf Yutes. On Daf Yutes, the Gemara brought the Shaila. Yeah, we learned right here on Daf Yutes, the last point that we learned on Friday. What's the halach in such a case? Do we consider that Ma'aser Sheni to be as if it's already inside the city of Yerushalayim, or not? Because the Gemara said over there that if a person has a package with him, so then if the person is partially inside Yerushalayim and he's not his entire package is in Yerushalayim, so then he's not yet inside the city. So the question is, what's the halacha v'negeh to this kanya when he's holding this Ma'aser Sheni on his shoulders on this stick? What's the halacha over here? Is it like in the city of Yerushalayim or not? V'tivshoid bayed Rav Papa, and you can be paishit the bayed of Rav Papa. Then in such a case, he's going to get Makos for having it inside the city of Yerushalayim and then taking it out, because since he already went inside the city of Yerushalayim, so therefore his package that he has with him is also considered to be inside Yerushalayim. Even though it's on a stick and it's behind him, it's further back, it doesn't matter. It's as if it was brought into the city of Yerushalayim, and therefore in such a case he's going to get Makos. This is the Rivan's pshat over here in the Gemara. Okay, moving on to a different subject. Other cases where one is chayiv malchus, and the Mishnah has different halachas regarding these malchusim. Zok the Eilige Mishnah hakereyach karcha beroishay. If a person takes off, he pulls out the hairs from his head. This is talking about a person that's mourning for someone that passed away, and he's pulling out hairs. That is a malchus. This is clearly in the Torah, but the Mishnah here, this case and the other cases that are brought up here, that are clear psukim in the Torah, it's bringing it to teach certain halachas about when you chayiv malchus for this. Or v'hamakif pas reishai, one that removes the payas. It's called makif because one rounds out the head, as the Gemara is going to explain, that in the front by the person's the forehead is empty of hairs, behind the ear is empty of hairs, and then there's the side, the temples, that has the payas, the hairs, and when you round it out, when one cuts off the payas, that's called makif pa'as reishai. In the lashon of the pasuk, le'sakifu pa'as reishcha. Or va'amashchis pa'as zakanai, a person that removes the hairs of the beard. And v'haseirit srita, okay, so now, one more, v'haseirit srita achas alameis, one that cuts into his body, also mourning for one that died. Chayiv, Yechayiv Malchus for all these cases. Now, here are the chidushim. There are different chidushim benigeh to these cases that the Mishnah mentions here. Sarat srita achas al chamisha mesim. If a person makes these cuts, it's one cut for five people that passed away. Or chamish sritis, or he cuts himself 5 different times al meis echad for one person that died. Chayiv al kol achas v'achas. He'll be chayiv Malchus 5 times for each time. Now, regarding the makif payas haroish, al haroish shtayim, regarding the payas, there are the 2 payas on both sides, that one is chayiv achas mikan, v'achas mikan, from each side of the head. Al azakin, regarding the beard, where it says, regarding the beard, you're not allowed to, what the lashon of the pasuk is, upas zakonam lo yigalechu. So the word paas means the points of the beard should not be removed. Where is the paas zakonam? So there are 5. Alazakin, there's shtayim mikan, v'shtayim mikan. There's 2 on one side of the face and 2 on the other side, and v'achas malmata, and 1 in the bottom and the center. So what exactly the shtayim mikan, v'shtayim mikan is a machlekes rishonim. There are a few different opinions. According to the Rivan, there's it's hard to describe it verbally, but maybe I'll put up the picture. I saw there's different places they bring up pictures for this. One is below the ear, where the bottom jaw meets with the point of the bottom jaw with the top jaw. That's basically right under the ear. And then according to the Rivan, there's another area which is close to the center of the what's this called over here? Of the chin. On the sides of the chin. On the 2 sides of the chin, which is sort of the ends of the bottom cheekbone, that's another 2 payas. And then you have the center of the chin. That's according to the Rashbam. Sorry, not Rashbam, Rivan. According to Rashi, in another place, Rashi says that the cheekbone, there's below the ear, the bottom of it, and then there's the top of the cheekbone, which is sort of under the eye. That's another point, a paas, another paya. That's according. There's other opinions also. Akopanim, the Tzemach Tzedek here in his Chidushim on this Mishnah goes through Barichas, the different opinions, and he basically says that it comes out according to all opinions that it's almost the entire face where the hairs grow, and therefore one should not remove the beard anywhere, basically, more or less. Okay. That's benegayet to the different sections of the beard. Some of the Rishonim point out that regarding the payas, the Mishnah starts off ala reish shtayim, and then it says achas mikam v'achas mikam. Regarding the beard, it doesn't do that. It doesn't say ala zokin chomesh and then the details, because regarding the payas, it's possible that a person should remove both payas at the same time and he'll be chayav twice. Regarding removing the beard of all these 5 different sections, it's impossible or very difficult to remove them at the same time. Therefore, the Mishnah doesn't say that expression. Rabbi Eliezer says, "In nitlu kulan ka'achas, ein chayev ela achas." If he removes all of them at the same time, then he'll be chayev only once. Ve'ein chayev ad sheyitlenu betar. Another detail: you're not going to be chayev by removing the beard only if it's done with a razor. So the Mishnah is talking about the beard. Regarding the payas harosh, regarding the payas over there, it's a machlokes rishonim. Whether the issur of removing the payas is dafka with a razor as well, or no, maybe not, because the Mishnah it's a machlokes. It's for both days. I brought in Shulchan Aruch. Rabbi Eliezer says, even if one removes it with not a razor but other kinds of tools, these are tools that are usually used in carpentry. Malaket and a hitni, I don't know the exact translation, a plane and whatever it is. So even with other kinds of tools, one is also chayiv if he removes the hairs. So the Gemara Text, we learned in Abraisa regarding the first thing mentioned in the Mishnah, that if one removes the hairs of his head for mourning for a person that died, that there's malchus for this. Right, so the Mishnah said, Beroishay, anywhere in the head. That was the main chiddush of the Mishnah. That's why it mentions it here. Anywhere in the head. So the Brayser explains. Yachal, I would think, even if he removes 4 or 5 times the hairs, that he would be chayiv only once for this. Talmud loymar karcha. The extra word in the pasuk, it doesn't just say leyikrchu bereisham, it says leyikrchu karcha bereisham. So that lechayev akol karcha v'karcha, one is chayev each time he removes the hairs. Now, when it says bereisham in the head, mat tamad loyma, why does it add this? Lefisha nama, because the pasuk says in a different place. Lois is goyde du v'leisasimu karcha bein einechem. So this is in the pasuk where it says this regarding all Yidden. There's one pasuk where it says in Parshas Emor, "Layikru karcha bereisham." There it's talking in Parshas Emor where it speaks about the Kohanim. But then the pasuk where it speaks about all Yidden, it says ben einechem. So it seems like it's only between the eyes, lameis, when one dies. So yachal lechayev el ben einayim. I would think it's only between the eyes. Bulvat. How do I know that this lav applies anywhere in the head where he removes the hairs? Talmud loyma bereisham. That's why it says in the pasuk in Emor, it says bereisham, anywhere in the head. L'rabba is kol reish, all of the head. Now, but as mentioned, that's only the pasuk that says by kohanim. Ve'ein liyala b'kohanim. Sheribe ben hakasav mitzvahs yiseiros. By kohanim, we find there's extra mitzvahs, and also there in Parshas Emor. So maybe the fact that it's bereisham, that's only regarding kohanim. Yisrael minayin. How do I know the same applies for every year that the lav is for anywhere in the head? Nema kan karcha, v'nema la'alon karcha. It says karcha by the kohanim, and it says karcha over here by every yid. L'sasimu karcha ben einechem. Mala alon chayav akol karcha v'karcha, and v'chayav al roish keben einayim. Just like by the pasuk by the kohanim, yechayev for every karcha separately another lav, another malchus, and also for the entire head as between the eyes. Afkan by all yidden chayav akol karcha v'karcha v'chayav al roish keben einayim. Yechayev for each karcha and for the entire head. Umala alon al meis. And just like by the pasuk that it says by all Yidden, it says lameis afkan al meis. So too by the Kayin, even though it doesn't say clearly lameis, it's speaking about one that removes the hairs for mourning when he's mourning for a person that died. Okay, now hani dalid vehei krichis. When it says there that one would be chayiv if he removes 4 or 5 times the hairs. Hey chidami, what's the case here? Is the case that this happened once and again, and it's a b'chomish asrais. This person did this aveda and repeated, and he gets a hasra for every time he does the aveda. Pshita. So then it's obvious that he would be chayiv for repeating this aveda and getting a warning for each time. Why do you need a special pasuk of karcha to teach me that you would be chayiv? Ella, the case over here is b'chad asra. He only got warned once, and then he removed it again and again. But mi mechayiv? Would he be chayiv for each time that he removed the hairs? But Tanan, we learned about a similar case regarding a Nazir. That a Nazir, he's not allowed to drink wine. He's drinking wine all day. So for all the wine he drank all day, he'll be chayiv malchus once. He got one warning, and it's chayiv malchus once. However, amru loy, al tishte. If he's warned again and again, do not drink. So he got a warning for each time that he drank, and he keeps on drinking, then chayiv kolachas v'achas. Then he's chayiv for each time that he drank the wine, there's another malchus. So over here as well, if he only got one warning, you should be chayiv for each karcha only once. Says the Gemara, loy tzriche, the case over here, that the Mishnah says that you need this pasuk and it teaches that you chayiv separately for each time. The sach chamish etz ba'isav nasha. He puts on his fingers, on the tip of his fingers, on 5 fingers, nasha, this whatever it is that will remove the hair. And then at the same time, vaisvina b'vasachas, and at the same time he puts the 5 fingers and the different areas in his head to remove the hairs, as a sign of his mourning for someone that died. So here he's getting a warning for what he did. All at the same time. So that's the chiddush over here that we're learning from the pasuk of Karcha, that he's chayiv all at the same time. So Taisus here points out that this is only here by this case of Karcha. By any other case where you get a warning and you have this warning and then you do the Aveda 5 times, but all at the same time, you wouldn't get Malchus 5 times. Even though you have one warning and he did it all b'vasachas, so you could argue and say, the warning was for this, for that, it was all, for all of them. So he got a clear warning for all 5, so you should be chayiv malchus always 5 times when it's done b'vasachas. But Taisa says no, usually you still chayiv malchus only once for one warning for the Aveda that he did. Here though, because it says in the pasuk the extra word karcha, he'll be chayiv for each one separately. And Taisus also adds actually that according to one Piddush, Taisus says here, this case the Gemara says that he had the 5 fingers and he did it all b'vasachas, it's lav dafke. Even if he did it one right after the other, and he got that one warning, he'll also be chayiv 5 times because of the pasuk of karcha that's megala that over here you'll be chayiv malchus for each one. The kama shir karcha. Now, what is the shir of the karcha? That the hairs that are removed. When it's there's a small bald spot that's exposed in his head. But Rab Shimon has to be the size of a gris, which is a much bigger size. Now the Gemara brings, according to one Gerser Tanoi, some machlokes Tanoim about this. Kamashir karcha. So one opinion is kegris. That it's exposed, that you see a bald spot in the head. There's actually an argument, there's another share, there's 3 Tanaim that argued about this. One said the size of a gris, which is a gris is about the size of a dime, I believe. About a little bit smaller, I think. Another says that it's when there's a bald spot in the head. That the shear is just 2 hairs. Another opinion says that the last opinion about 2 hairs, he takes out that opinion, and instead he says that the shear is the size of a lentil. The siman for this last opinion here, that you have one opinion which is a gris, and another opinion which is ka'adasha, like a lentil, they have similar by the shear of a nega. That over there, one opinion is beheres is kigris, the size of the nega is a gris, on michya, and then the michya, which is that spot inside the nega, which is like regular skin, that is a siman tumah inside the nega, this week's parsha, b'ka'adasha, the size is a lentil. So just like there, you have the 2 shirim of gris and adasha. Here too, 2 of the opinions, one is gris and the other is adasha. Now, Tana and a brayse we learned regarding Shabbos. Hanoitul muloi pia zug b'Shabbos chayev. If one cuts here, and Shabbos, one of the melachos on Shabbos, you're not allowed to remove here. So if one cuts a little bit of here, just like the tip of a scissor, chayev will be chayev for this. Now, v'kama muloi pia zug. What is that tip of the scissor that this brayse is saying? Rav Yehuda explained, shtayim. It's removing 2 hairs on Shabbos, yechayev for the malacha of geizes. In the Gemara Badvat in the brayse, we learned that, I think it's the continuation of that same brayse, that it says, L'karcha shtayim. That if it's for the lav of karcha, when one removes hairs, in the case for a dead person, then it's 2 hairs. So it sounds like it's different than the tip of the scissor. The tip of the scissor is not shtayim, because it contrasts. It says Shabbos, it's the tip of the scissor, and for karcha, it's 2 hairs. So the Gemara says, no, Eimet, the way to read and understand this Braisa is V'chein lekarcha shtayim. That the same by Shabbos, which is the tip of the scissor, which is 2 hairs, same regarding karcha is also 2 hairs. Tanya Nami Yachi, this is what we learned in another Braisa. If one removes on Shabbos, the tip of the scissor will be chayiv. And the kama maloi piyazug, how much is the tip of the scissor? Shtayim. That's 2 hairs. Rabbi Eliezer says achas, that on Shabbos, if you remove just 1 hair, you're chayiv for the malacha of geizes for cutting hair. Now, Maidim Chachamim l'Rabbi Eliezer, Chachamim would be made to Rabbi Eliezer, the Malakat Levanis Mutech Shchayris. If a person is cutting a white hair from black hairs, that Afila Achas Shul Chayev, that on Shabbos will be Chayev for even cutting 1 hair. Because the reason why Chachamim say it has to be 2 hairs, because only 2 hairs has Chshivas, is significant. 1 hair is not significant enough. But if he's removing 1 white hair amongst black hairs, that's something that's significant, and therefore will be Chayev for geizes, even according to the Chachamim. And not only that, the Braisa goes on to say, V'dov removing a white hair from black hairs, afilu b'chayil aser. Even during the week it's aser, mishum shenema, because the pasuk says, la yilbash gever simlas isha, that a man may not garb himself in the clothing of a woman. Removing a white hair from black hairs is being over on this lav of la yilbash. That's even b'chayil, that one would be chayiv. Going back to the Mishnah of Amakev Pasresh v'chulu, one removes the payas. So there's the 2 payas that one would be chayiv twice malchus. Tan Rabbanan, so in a Braisa we learned that describes what the payas are. Pa'asreishay, the payas of the head means seif reishay, the end of the head. Now what's the end? Ve'zel seif reishay. Ze hamashve tzeda'ov, when one equals he makes the tzeda'ov, which is the temples, the sides where the payas are, he makes that to be equal la'achay yaznoi, to what's behind his ears, where there's no hair, and to the forehead, where there's no hairs. And so if he cuts off the temples, the side, and now it's all equal, where there's no hair, that's the isser of removing the payas hareish. Both the one that is doing the act of removing the hairs, and the person that his hairs were removed from him, the payas, they both get malchus. Amalei, so Rav Chisda said to this Tana that taught this, tamri bar bilte loki, one that eats dates that are inside a sieve, stop eating dates, he would get malchus. So over here, the person that had his payas removed by someone else, he's sitting there and doing nothing. He's going to get malchus as a nikif because someone removed his payas. The one that removed the payas should get malchus, but why does he get malchus? And so the answer, the Amalach Mani, or Rav Chisda himself said, who said this to you? The Amalach, or he'll tell you, Mani, who according to whose opinion is this? Rabbi Yehudahi. This follows Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. As we learned already before in the Masechta a few times, the Amar, Rabbi Yehuda says, Lav, she'ein by Maise, a lav where there is no Maise, like an olav. There's malchus for this. What's the source for this? So the Rivan here says, because in the Lashon of the Pasuk, it says, Loisakifu. It uses the term Loisakifu pa'as reishchem. Loisakifu, it's mashma, that it means both, the makif and the nikif. Or another pshat that the Rivan says, Loisakifu is a plural term. So who's the 2 it's talking about? The one that's cutting the payas, and the one that the payas is getting cut from him. So if someone's by a barber, and the payas is cutting off the hair, so it's the responsibility of the person that his payas is getting cut. He can't just blame the barber. He has to make sure that he doesn't cut off his hairs, and he's going to be chayiv malchus. According to Rav Yehuda, there's even malchus for this, even by a lav, she'ein by maisa. That's one pshat. Another pshat, Rava says, b'makif la'atzmai. What he's saying is, if someone is giving himself a haircut and he's cutting off his own payas, and v'divrei hakol, everybody would agree to this because he's doing an action. And the chiddush here is that he's going to get malchus twice for the action of cutting and for the fact that the outcome, that the hairs of the payas are removed from his head. That's the lashon of the pasuk. Lo yisakifu shows that there's 2 malchusim for this. Ravashi says, b'misayeya v'divrei hakol, that over here, it's with the person that's getting the haircut and his payas is being cut off, he's positioning himself and he's helping out the one giving him the haircut to cut off his payas. He's not just sitting there like a lame duck and the guy's cutting his payas. He's helping him cut off his payas. Then there is an action that he's doing and he's going to get malchus. So the Mefarshim here explained, even though usually the klal is misayeya aim by mamish, that when you just helping out for an aveda, like by Shabbos, you're not chayev for that. It's only the one that does the actual action that's chayev. But over here, the misayeya is doing an isser. The Gemara's question was that it's a lav shein by Maise, but the fact that he's doing a iser, that you see in the language of the pasuk because it says loy sakifu. The only question was he did no action, so why is he chayiv malchus? So therefore the Gemara now says no, that he's doing an action the Messiah, and therefore he will be chayiv malchus for this. The next thing is said in the Mishnah is Amisadat Srita Achas V'chulu, that one is chayiv for making a cut in the skin when he's mourning for a dead person. When it says in the Torah not to make this cut in the skin, that would apply for any. Skip the piece. Sorry, skipped one piece about the beard. Okay, sorry. Going back. Someone that removes the beard. What does that mean? The end of the beard, the ends. The points of the beard. Shiboiles means a kernel. Just like a kernel has a point, so too there are the points in the person's face, as mentioned before in the Mishnah, the 5 different points that the person's chayav for it. Okay, now the case of Mesaret, Srita Achas V'chulu, Tan Rabbanon, so we learned in the Braise. Viseret, when it says in the Torah that a person should not cut into his skin for a person that died when he's mourning, Yachal Afil Sarat Al Beis, that this would apply for another tragic event that a person is making this cut in his skin. His house collapsed, or a ship that sank in the water. And then over there he would be chayiv as well. Talmud loymar lo nefesh. The pasuk says, "Seret lo nefesh," for a life that was lost, and then is a sign of mourning. He makes this cut in his skin. And a chayiv alal ameis bilvad, only chayiv for a person that died. Now, minay lemesaret chomish srita is al meis echad shu chayiv al kolachas vachas. If he makes this cut 5 times for someone that died, then he would be chayiv for each time separately, similar to what it said before regarding the karcha. So Talmud loymar viseret. It says here the pasuk the term viseret. And from this I learned that he's chayav for each one. It could have just said l'nefesh lo yisritu. It says v'seret l'nefesh lo yisitnu b'vsarchem. That means that for each seret, for each cut, he's chayav separately. Rabbi Yossi says minay l'mesaret srita achas al heimesim. From where do I know if one makes one cut for 5 people that died? Shu chayav al kolachas v'achas. It is chayav for each one. Talmud loymar l'nefesh. When it says la-nefesh, that means l'chayiv al kol nefesh v'nefesh. For each person that he's making a srita for, he's chayiv another time. Fragt the Gemara, but va'piktei, didn't we just say that word nefesh comes to teach something else? Lebeis l'shenafal, l'sunas l'shetava b'yam, to say that if it's his house that collapsed or the boat that sank, and he's making the cut that he's not chayiv for that, that's why it says nefesh. And says the Gemara, there's still another extra pasuk here, because Kasava Rabbi Yossi holds Srite Ugedide Achasi. When it says this in the Torah twice, it says once V'seret LaNefesh Le'sitnu. Then there's also another pasuk where it says Loises Goidedu. So according to Rabbi Yossi, the term of Loises Goidedu and the term of Srite mean both the same thing. Even though you could say that one means by hand and one means with a keli, but nevertheless Rabbi Yossi holds no, they both mean by hand or by keli, so it's the same thing. Oksiv Hassam, and over there by Leisis Gaidedu it says Lameis. So therefore, I already know that it's only for a mace and not a house that collapsed or so on. So therefore, when it says here Lo Nefesh, it's an extra pasuk to say that you chayiv for each nefesh, even if it's one srita, the person will be chayiv malchus for each time, for each nefesh that is. Okay.